ॐ नमो नारायणाय ॐ नमो नारायणाय
Asmad Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmad Parama Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmad Sarva Gurubhyo Namaha. So continuing on with beginner's Sanskrit, chapter 17 of Thomas Again's Beginning Sanskrit. And this is the summary of the chapter. Lesson 17, we're going to learn a little bit more about the alphabet Sandhi rules in final T. So when the first word ends in a final T and is followed by another word, what is the sandhis for that? We'll have a look at that. And then for grammar, we're going to look at nouns ending in ri, ending in the vocalic, the vowel ri, and also the future tense, a simple future tense, which is called rit by Panini. And then vocabulary, extra vocabulary. Of course, since he's introduced nouns ending in ri, he's going to give us some nouns ending in re in the vocabulary as well. Okay, so let's get right into it and see the Sandhi rules. He's given another sort of somewhat confusing chart here, but anyway, let's go through it, and with the examples, we'll understand it. So, alphabet rules, Sandhi rules for final dental T, right? When the first word in two words where we have a Sandhi in between them, ends in a dental T, in the majority of cases, it remains the same if followed by a letter which is unvoiced. So unvoiced. So we have voiced and unvoiced. So just to remind us of what is voiced and unvoiced, the first two vertical columns, if we look at the five vargas, right? The first two are what we call unvoiced. They're also called hard, or in Sanskrit, aghosh letters. They are unvoiced. And the three other vertical columns, we have, for instance, ga ga nga, cha cha, ja ja nya, da da na, da da na, ba ba ma. These are all voiced because we use more voice. We use more vibration of the vocal cords to pronounce them. They're also called voiced. They're also called sonants, and in English, and in Sanskrit, they're called gosha. So, in the majority of cases where the beginning letter of the next word after a final dental T comes in contact with an unvoiced letter, then it doesn't change. It remains the same if the following letter is unvoiced, and it changes to D, dental D, right? From dental T to dental D, because in the dentals, in the dentals, we have ta 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 da da na, right? So the unvoiced dentals are ta ta, and the voiced dentals are da da na, right? So it changes from voiced to unvoiced if the next letter, the following letter, is voiced. So basically, you've got this unvoiced letter, dental T, and it becomes voiced when it's followed by, it gets flavored by the next letter, and it becomes voiced, right? Or what we call gosha. So those letters which are in bold are the exceptions. So apparently we're going to look down here and we're going to see some letters are the exceptions. So see the examples that follow. Okay, so dental T remains dental T, except, right? So in the next, when we get all the vowels coming in the next, beginning the second word, when we get ka ka ga ga, right? Or ta 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 da da, or pa pa ba ba, or ya ra and va, right? And that's it. And then the T, the dental T, changes to dental D from unvoiced to voiced when followed by when followed by let's go line by line. When followed by guttural ng, when followed by cha cha ja 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 nya, all the palatals, it becomes C, right? When followed by when it becomes a cerebral, the dental T becomes a cerebral T. So when followed by a palatal, it becomes C. When followed by the cerebral, it becomes cerebral ta. So when followed by ta ta da da na, it becomes ta. When followed by palatal sha, or the aspirate ha, it becomes C or CH, right? Then when followed by the nasals, it can also optionally become a nasal, right? The dental T can become a nasal. So when followed by the nasal, any of these nasals, it becomes the nasal of its own class. So it becomes dental na, right? Because it was dental ta, so it becomes dental na. When followed by a palatal, it can optionally become ja if it's followed by one of these gauche palatals. So from dental ta to palatal ja, and it can become the dental da. The cerebral da, when followed by the cerebral da da na. And it can also become, it can turn into an L, la, when followed by la, when the next word begins with a la, which is a semivowel. Okay, and then also when followed by ha, it can turn into da, dental da or da. All right, so those are those that's the table, right? But I would prefer to go through the examples. Okay, so here are the examples for these 8 rules. Okay, so the first one is we've got ramat plus cha. So ramat plus cha. Up here it says when it's followed by cha, right? The palatal cha. The dental T turns into also a cha, right? So we have ramat cha becomes ramat cha, right? The T turns into a C, so you double the C basically there. Ramat cha. Second one, we have ramat plus a cerebral T, ramat da, right? So in this case, the dental T turns into a cerebral. So it becomes ramat da. Then we have ramat again plus shastram, and the T is going to turn into a C, right? As it did up here in the first example, but because the second word starts with the sibilant, the sh, the palatal s, right? That palatal s is going to turn into a ch. So you're going to get ramachastram. Yeah. So then we have ramat followed by manyate, right? Is the T is going to become a nasal. In this case, it's going to also become the same sort of nasal. So it's going to become a nasal of its own class. So it's a dental T. It's going to turn into a nasal, dental nasal. Dental nasal is na. So it's going to become Raman Manyate. So then we have E. We have Ramat followed by Jalam. So dental T followed by palatal J, right? This becomes Ramaj Jalam. So the T is going to become a J. The dental T becomes a palatal J in front of palatal J. So then Ramat, also followed by another type of cerebral da, right? It's a softer voiced da. Gosha. So Ramat plus da. The dental T is going to also turn into a cerebral da. So you're going to have a doubling of the da here. Ramada. Ramada. Okay, then we have Ramat plus labate. Ramat plus labate. When the second word begins with an L, right? The dental T is going to be flavored by the L and is going to also turn into an L. So we're going to get Ramal labate. Ramat in H, Ramat plus hastaha, right? We've got dental T followed by the aspirate H, right? Which is also in the same group as the sibilants, the S's. There. So then that's going to the dental T is going to turn into a dental D. It's going to soften it. And then the H itself is going to turn into a DH. So it's going to be DDH. So it's Ramad Dastaha. Okay, so those are the examples. So now for the grammar portion of this lesson, here's the declension for some nouns ending in ri. That's the vocalic. It's not R, not the refa, not the letter R, but the letter ri, which is the vocalic, the vowel sign R with a dot under it, ri. So these nouns are usually an agent of action. They usually refer to an agent of action or to a relation. We know many words that end in that are re-ending nouns in Sanskrit that have to do with relations, like matri, pitri, swastri, right? Mother, father, sister, bratri, brother, right? So nouns of relation. Okay, and also nouns of the agent of action. So here we have the first two. So we have datri, masculine, means giver, comes from the verb to da to give, and then swasri. So swasri is feminine and it means sister. So here he is given the declension for datri, and whenever there's a change for swasri, he's given the swasri. So we go through it. So nominative data, datarao, dataraha, dataram, datarao, datrin, datra, datribhyam, datribihi, datre, datribhyam, byam, datribhyaha, datu, datribhyam, datribhyaha, datuhu, datoho, datroho, datrinam, datari, datroho, datrishu, data, datarao, dataraha. Okay, so that's data. And the same thing for swasri, except in the accusative plural, we have swashrihi. Okay, so you've got a visarga here instead of an ending. So that's a different, a little bit different. Okay, and so now we have some other ones. We have mother, father, mother, brother, right? We already had sister above. So we have father, mother, brother. So he says they have a weaker form looking at the second syllable. Weaker form means a shorter syllable, let's say. In the nominative and vocative, dual and plural. And the accusative, singular and dual. So let's have a look at how they're conjugated like that. And he has just included only the nominative, accusative, and vocative, and he's assuming that you understand that the instrumental, dative, ablative, genitive, locative, and vocative, or I'm sorry, he's giving the vocative here. The instrumental, dative, ablative, genitive, and locative go the same as datri and swashri. Yeah. So we're just going to talk about the nominative, accusative, and vocative because they're the ones that differ with pitri, matri, and bratri. So pitri means father. It's masculine. It's a masculine word, right? Gender and the meaning of the word don't necessarily go together, because there can be a masculine, feminine, and neuter words for wife, but obviously a wife is feminine in reality. Okay, so we have to, even though we know that pitri means father, we have to say that it's a masculine noun. Matri means mother, and it's a feminine noun. Bratri means brother, and it's a masculine noun. So here they're the same, but in some cases the gender of the word is different from the gender of the thing it's describing. That's my point. Okay, so let's have a look here. In the nominative, it's all the same, and they all go according to the same way pitri goes, except in the accusative plural, where, as we saw above with swasri, right, where bratri and matri are a little bit different. So nominative: pita, pitarao, pitaraha, pitaram, pitarao, pitrin, but also bratrin and matrihi. So, and then evocative: pita, pitarao, pitaraha. So probably the best thing to do, I would suggest, he's given in a very concise form here. It's better to go and to write out these declensions in full. Datri, swashri, pitri, matri, and bratri. Write them all out in full and go through them and learn them that way. Okay, so now we've learned re-ending nouns. And so we've learned masculine and feminine. We weren't presented with any neuter ones, which is probably because they're usually relationships, they're usually people, and they're usually agents of action. Okay, so number 3 here. This is just to go with that. In a few but frequently used dvandva compounds, and remember in the last lesson we learned about these dvandva compounds, which are basically the way we compound words when we have a list of words and we would want to say, such and such cha, such and such cha, such and such cha, or such and such va, like that. And this and this and this and this, and we can make them into a compound, which is called a dvandva compound, which we dealt with last time, such as mother and father, and we want to make that into a compound. The first word usually ends in a long A. Okay, the nominative singular. So the first word is not the stem as it usually is in a compound, but it is the nominative singular, and in this case it will be ending in a long A, right? So for example, if we go back up here, matri, if we were just to take the stem of that, right, it will be matri. That's the stem, right? So we don't say matri pitarao, but instead we say mata pitarao. So here it's mata, which is the nominative singular of matri. Okay, same thing with pit. If we wanted to do it the other way around, it would be the same. Okay, so mata pitarao means mother and father, and we could say father and mother, and then we would have to have the it would be the same. It would be the same. It would be pita matarao, right? Because the dual case ending, right, is the same for masculine and feminine words ending in re. Unlike the different nouns that we have, where we have the short A ending and the long A ending, masculine and feminine nouns in declensions. Okay, so that's enough about nouns ending in re, and also about dvandva compounds using nouns ending in re. So now we go to the future tense. This is a simple future tense. The first thing he has to say about that is, now we study the future tense. Sometimes the present indicative, which is the first tense that we've learned for Sanskrit verbs, which just is the simple present, right, can also be used. Sometimes the simple present can also be used for the immediate future, right? So in English, we say I go or I'm going, right? So if somebody says to me, oh, what are you doing? So I'm just going, I'm going. I'm using the present tense, but actually my action is going to occur just in the near future. I'm going to go, right? I'm just now going, sort of thing. So here, the same thing in Sanskrit. If somebody says gachami, it literally is the present tense. So it means I go or I am going, which is the simple present and the present indicative and the present continuous, which are synonymous in English pretty much, right? And if we use it in Sanskrit, we can also use it for I'm just about to go, like I'm going, and the going is going to happen in the near future, right? So we can translate it possibly in context, looking in the context of a particular story, right, as I will go, even though it's present tense in Sanskrit. This is definitely present tense, and normally you would just say it means I go or I am going. It can't mean anything else. But here he's saying sometimes it's used to mean I will go just in the future, just now going, right? Okay, so that's the first thing. Now, what about the real future tense way to make the future tense? So more often than using the present tense for just now going, right? So more often, the simple future tense would be used. And this future tense is called by Panini rit. There are what we call the 10 lakars. There are these lakars, these small words that begin with L, lat, lit, lut, rit, right? So rit means the simple future tense, right? So in Panini terminology, we don't have to remember that. We just have to know that there's a simple future tense, and this is how you make it. It's used for any future action, So it is formed by adding SYA or SYA, right? The dental S, right? Dental S, semivowel Y, A, right? Or I, cerebral S, YA, Isha. So Sya or Isha is added, either one. In different cases, one or the other will be added, right? Not to the end, not to the very end of the word, but to the end of to the strengthened root. So remember that the dental S becomes a cerebral S when immediately preceded by any vowel except short or long A. So we look back at page 142 and we'll see that there's Sandhi. There's internal Sandhi. So far in this lesson, we're talking about just external Sandhi, which means between two words, but inside a word, between the root and an ending, right? And or a suffix that we put on before the ending. Here we're talking about the future tense where we're putting the suffixes on, and the suffixes can be either ishya or sha, sya, right? If we put sya on as an ending, then we have to be careful if we're adding that to a root that ends in a vowel, except for a or long a, then it will change to become a cerebral. So now it said here strengthened root. The root first has to be strengthened. What does that mean? Do we remember about guna and vriddhi? Maybe I'm not sure whether these are different types of where we take the vowel, a simple vowel, and we strengthen it, and then strengthen it again by adding a to it, and it strengthens, right? So a short a becomes a short a in guna, and then vriddhi it becomes a long a, right? A short I becomes an e if it's strengthened. So there's guna and vriddhi. So strengthening means making it the guna. So most roots are strengthened by adding guna changes to the vowel. And for this, we should look at page 167 if we can't remember what that is. The standard active and middle endings are then added. standard active and middle endings. All those tiptasanti, mitposmas, like that, te, ate, ante, like that. Those endings are just added at the end. So how do we make the future tense? All right, again, we take the root of the verb, the root, not the stem, which we would normally add endings to get the present tense, but the root. Take the root, we strengthen that by guna strengthening, right? After we strengthen it, we add sya or isha, right? And then we add t, like t ta taha, t taha taha, like that, anti, like that. We add that on at the end. We add those endings onto the end, either active endings or middle endings, what we call atmanepada or parasmaipada endings, which we've learned already. Okay, so it sounds difficult, but it's not really that difficult. Let's have a look at some examples, right? So here is the third person singular future of some verbs that we've learned. Well, let's go straight to the second one with first and not talk about the first one. It's the same as the first one. Basically, well, we can start at the first one. Okay, so we've got gum, okay, the root gum. So gum becomes gutch, right? Gum is the root. When you see that square root sign in front of something, it means it's the root. When it's not there, it'll be the stem. So the root gum becomes gutch, right, to form the present tense. But we don't form the future tense from the stem. We form it directly from the root. So we take the root gum and we add isha to it, which is a future marker. Those two future markers, sya and isha. So we take gum, add isha, and then the third person singular ending. So we've got gum. Then we add the future marker here, this suffix first, right, that goes there in between, isha. And then we add t, which is he, she, or it. So it means he, she, or it will go, right? He will go, she will go, it will go, right? Gamishyati. Now, if we also add before the root gum, if we add what we call an upasarga or a prefix, right? Upa means close by, right? Upanishad means to sit close to the guru, to the teacher, right? There's other examples, but upa tends to make the verb mean something happens close. So close, go, turns into approach, to come close, right? To come close, right? So gum, or to go close, basically. So we have upa plus gum. The gum, again, is the root, right? The root is strengthened, it's still gum. And we add isha and we add t, just as we did down here. And it becomes he will approach. Okay, let's look at another one which will give you a better idea of strengthening. This next one will give us a better idea of strengthening, because these first two, the root didn't change when it was strengthened, right? But when this vowel u is strengthened, right? The guna of this u, simple u, is o. Gup, the root gup, becomes, can I select that? No, somehow or not. So gup becomes gop. U-o by guna, right? So the root gup becomes strengthened to become the future stem, gop, add the suffix for the future, sya, and then add the ending, t, right? He will protect. Gup is to protect, right? So gopsyati, yeah? Here's another one. Chint means to think, right? Now, one thing about chint is, it's one of those verbs that's called an ubaipada verb. It can be, you can put active endings on it, or you can put middle endings on it. You can put atmanepada endings or parasmaipada endings. So it can be conjugated chintati, chintataha, chintanti, chintasi, chintataha, chintataha, chintami, chintawaha, chintamaha, or chintai. Or it can also be chintate, like that, right? Chintate, chintete, chintante, right? So just like we have bhavati and labate, right? Those two words. It's ubaipada. It can take both endings. So when but that doesn't really mean anything until we get to the end of the process. So chint is the root, right? Chintai, I guess. Chint becomes the I'm not sure exactly what the chint should become. Chintai. Okay, so chintai, for some reason it becomes chintai, is a stem, and then we add isha as the future marker, the future suffix, and then t in the active is the third person singular active ending, and te is the third person middle act third person singular middle act ending. He will think. Here's another one. Okay, this is easier to understand. G is, from G we get Jai, Jaya, right? G becomes Jayati in the present tense, but in the future tense, right? The root is strengthened and G becomes J. So J plus Shya, right? That's the ordinary S Y A, and then there's an internal sandhi here because the normal dental S Y A, the dental S is following a vowel, but it's not a short A or a long A. So the rule was above that if it follows a vowel which is not a short A or long A, then it changes, right, to a cerebral. So it becomes J, instead of J Syati, it becomes J Shati. So J Sha, right, with the suffix marking the future tense, and then T, third person singular active ending. He will conquer. So now we have drish. Drish means to see, and down here also we have another one, pash. Drish and pash are both roots, and they both mean to see. And when we drish is easier to see how it becomes drakshiti. From pash it becomes drakshiti also. This is a it's not, it doesn't follow any rule. It's outside of rules. So it just becomes that, and you just have to remember that. It's an exception, is what I was trying to think of. Okay. So let's look at they're both ways that you can look it up in the dictionary. You can look up the root drish and you can look up the root pash, and they both mean to see. But when we make them into a word, they both become dra. So here we have drakshiti, right? So drish becomes dra, right? Drak, drish becomes drak, and then we add sya, and then t, right? So sya is the future suffix, and t is the third person singular active ending, right? Like that. Now, you might say, well, this seems very, very difficult. Okay, but when we're looking to translate from Sanskrit to English, we just look for this marker in the verb sya. We just look for the sya or the isha, and we know, oh, that's the future tense. And then, that. So I mean, we could be mistaken maybe in some cases, but mostly this is a surefire thing to look for. Sya is going to tell you that it's the future tense. All right, we can think of Bhagavad Gita 1866. Lord Krishna says, "Moksha yishyami masuchaha." Moksha yishyami. Ishyami means I will. I will in the future free you. Moksha yishyami. liberate you. I will liberate you in the future. It's a future tense. Mokshi shami. Yeah. So we get that ish, and then we get me, ami, which is the first person singular active ending. Yeah. Okay. So now we have drakshati, meaning he will see. Now we have ni long I. Ni becomes the I becomes a by guna, so it's ne, and then we add sya again. The dental s here by internal sandhi becomes a cerebral s, so it's neshati. This is also like chint. It's also an ubhayapada verb. So, but you can add active and you can add middle endings to it. So it's not only neshyati, but it's also neshyate. And they both mean he will lead. So, see, in the present tense, that ni would be nayati. Nayati, nayataha, nayanti, like that. But here it's neshyati, neshyate. He will lead. It could be nayati or nayate in the present. So then we have pat. Pat means to read. It can mean recite also. Pat. Patishyati. Pat stays as pat, and we add ishya, and then we add the third person active, singular active. Pash, we already discussed with drish, same thing, becomes drakshati. He will see. So he will read, he will see, right? And the last one I think we're going to talk about here is pa. Pa means to drink. And it becomes the long A stays a long A when it gets strengthened because it's already strong, long and strong. So pa becomes pash, and we add sha and t. The difference here is that when we add the dental sya, that dental s, because what's coming before it, the vowel becoming before it, is a long A. So if it's a long A or a short A, then it doesn't change to a cerebral, whereas in two cases above it changed to a cerebral. Here it stays a dental, so we get pashyati. Pashyati, he will drink. Okay, and now we have some more. We have prach. Prach becomes prak. Prak, and we add sya. That's interesting. I don't know why. That may be an exception here because prach becomes prak, and then if you add dental sya, then how does the s change to a cerebral there? Because there's no vowel that comes before it. There's no vowel that comes before it. So this, he hasn't explained exactly this example. But anyway, that's what it is. Prakshasi. Okay. He will ask. Bud by guna becomes bod, right? And we add ishya and then ti or te. It's an ubhayapada verb. So it can take both active and middle endings. Bu, which was the first verb we learned, to be, right? So bu becomes bav. U becomes av by strengthening, guna strengthening. Bhav plus isha plus t. He will be. Man becomes by internal sandhi. The man is strengthened. It's just the same, and it becomes mam. It becomes anushwara here. The n becomes an anushwara when it comes before the dental s. So it becomes mamshyate. Ram becomes also an anuswara before the dental s by internal sandhi, and therefore it's ramshyate, right? These are all middle endings. He will enjoy. Then we have lub. Lub we know is takes middle endings. It was one of the first, I think, verbs that we learned that take middle endings. Labate, labete, labante, labase, labete, labadwe, like that. So lab means to obtain. So or gain. So lab becomes lapsh, right? There's a change. There's an internal sandhi. He hasn't explained all these internal sandhis exactly yet. I don't think. We have to look at the original sandhi tables that he gave us and see if these are explained in the section on conjunct and consonant sandhi. The b becomes a p. So the lup, and we add sya, and we add te, right? So we get lapsya te, he will obtain. Vad means to speak. So we usually have vadati, vadataha, vadanti, like that, in the present tense. And vad plus ishya, the future marker, plus t, the third person singular active ending, means vadishyati, he will speak. Vas, to dwell or to live. The s at the end of the s becomes a t here, becomes vatsyati, with the sya as the future marker and t as the ending. He will live. Shub, the u in shub, the short u in shub became strengthened to an o by guna strengthening. So shub becomes shob. We had isha as the future ending, and te, the third person middle ending. And so an atmanepada ending. And so it's shobishyate, he will shine. Then we have save stays the same. We add isha and we add te, he will serve. Sevishyate. Star to stand. So, and probably tista would probably go the same way. So, which means also to stand. So star becomes stasyati. So star is ends in a long a. So strengthening doesn't do anything to that long a. So we get star plus sya plus t, the future ending, and the future marker, and the third person active singular ending. Okay, stasyati. I'm wondering if it might also be tishyati. Tishtasyati. Tishtasyati. I don't know, maybe he will stand. Sme means to smile. So the short I at the end of the root sme, right, becomes strengthened to an e, an a, right? So sme plus dental sya as the future marker, the s through internal sandhi because of the e, which is not a short a or not a long a, changes to a cerebral s. So we get, and then we add the ending, the third person singular ending, middle ending. So smeshyate. Then we get smri to remember, from which we get smarati, smarataha, smaranti, right? We know it takes active endings. It's parasmaipada verb. And so smar. So smri becomes smar. The re becomes r. When it's strengthened, that vowel becomes r and ar. And then smart. We get smart. We add ishya, which is the future marker, and t, which is the third person active ending, third person singular active ending. He will remember. Smarishyati. Okay, then we have has. Has means to laugh. So hasati, he laughs. Hasami, I laugh, like that. So what about they will laugh in the future, right? So in the future, we get has plus ishya, the future marker, plus t, the third person singular active ending, parasmaipada. Then we get hasishyati. So hashishyati, hashishataha, hashishanti, like that. He will laugh, etc. Yeah. So that's the future tense. Now comes the vocabulary. In the vocabulary, we're going to learn some more words. Okay, so in Sanskrit, we have kada. Kada is an indeclinable. So we remember that all these words that begin with K, right, which are indeclinables, a lot of them are words that are also what are called interrogatives. They start sentences which are questions. So just like he says, it's used here like kutra. If we remember, kutra means where. So when we had questions, kutra where kutras tvamayasi, where are you going, right? So so what is kada? Kada also means when. So when you know. Kada twamayasi. When are you going? Right? Instead of kutras twamayasi, right? So now we have karta. Karta is masculine noun, right? And actually, it means maker or doer. It's another name for the soul also, because the soul is a doer, right? So maker or doer, right? And it follows the re-ending declension. So we can think of this as karta. This is the form that's given here is the masculine nominative singular. But we can think of it as katri. Katri means the doer, masculine, like that. So it follows the re-declension that we just discussed with matri, pitri, swashri, datri, bratri, swashri, right? Yeah. So it follows that. It's a doer of action, right? Doer of action, right? So then we have another form of it. We have the feminine form. So a masculine doer would be karta. A feminine doer would be katri, long I. So this when it's masculine, it's declined like a re-ending noun. But when it's feminine, it's declined like a long I ending noun, like gopi, like the word gopi, right? Which is a feminine I ending, long I ending noun. Yeah. So we know how to do that. So kulam is neuter, like palam, and it means family. So then we have data. Data is masculine, and it also it is declined like a re-ending. So data it means giver, and we already learned that up in the beginning of the letter, in the beginning of the lesson. Datri means giver, right? So here we're showing the nominative singular form. Nominative singular form of datri is data. So then we have two types of givers. We could have a masculine giver, and we could have a feminine giver, right? So if we wanted to say giver and we wanted to decline it in the feminine, it would be a long I ending noun. So it would be declined like gopi, like a long I ending, or like the other example up here is katri, right? Giver, feminine giver. Now we have those other re-ending nouns that are nouns of relationship. So we have father, mother, daughter, father, mother, sister, and brother. So we have pita, which is the nominative singular of pitri, father. It's declined like a re-ending noun. Brata, which is the nominative singular. Brata is the nominative singular of bratri, right? And it means brother. That's declined like a re-ending noun. Then we have mata, which is the nominative singular of the feminine noun matri, which is re-ending and is declined like that, meaning mother. And swasa, which is the nominative singular of swasri, which means sister, also re-ending.
Om Namo Narayanaya. Om